Welcome back to the Untouchaballs podcast. Caden and Leo here. Caden, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you, Max?
You know what? I'm actually doing pretty good. This is our second episode of the day. We had our MLB episode earlier. If you did not see that, make sure you go and check that out. And of course, it was Halloween last night, Caden.
Yep.
Did you have a good Halloween?
I had a great Halloween. We enjoyed some football, some basketball,
Yes,
just
we
all
did.
around good sports day.
And some chili on top of that,
That is very
too.
true.
Caden, these weekend football matchups are going to be legit. So let's get going and talk about the college football matchup first that you want to speak of.
Yeah, the first game we're talking about is probably going to be, easily the biggest matchup of the weekend. It got the early start. It got the Fox noon kickoff, so probably should have been a nice primetime night game. But we got Ohio State at Penn State, two top 5 teams matching up against each other.
100%.
Where Ohio State is a 3-point favorite.
Caden, this is going to be a gritty dogfight game. I'm very excited to see how these teams face off against each other. Well, like you said, a Big Ten matchup. It's going to be huge. It's going to be electric. And I actually don't hate it being an earlier game, Caden, because I think it gives, real fall. It's going to be November. It gives those vibes of a nice Saturday morning football game that you want to see, and I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, it should be a great game. But, before we look at the players, I think we got to look at the coaches, though. Because in these big game matchups, James Franklin is 3-17 against top 10 teams in his career. And Ryan Day, he's better, but not by much. He's 8-8 against top 10. So it's two not great coaches when they're facing the superior opponents.
Caden, that's a great point to bring up, because before you could even look at teams, you got to start up top and moving down, trickling into the players. What matchups do you like to see for Ohio State to potentially exploit?
Yeah, I do like Ohio State to cover the 3 in this game. I think they're the better team.
Yes.
And another big concern for Penn State this week is Drew Aller. He left last week's game in the third quarter with an injury. And it's progressing like it looks like he's gonna play. But we won't know for sure, obviously, until probably Friday night. And even then, we don't know how healthy he is going to be. We've seen him look better this year than he has in years past. He's still nothing special by any means.
Yep.
And we've seen, especially in his career against Ohio State, he hasn't performed like last year. Ohio State was not a great football team by any means. Penn State was looking good. They had him at home just like they do this year. They found a way to get crushed. Aller did not play good. He threw a couple picks. Depending on this game will really come down to how Drew Aller plays. Because, you look at Ohio State, they have all the possible playmakers on offense. They have a good defense. It's Ohio State. They have everyone. I think really, in reality, this game will come down to Drew Aller's play. If he'll be able to not turn the ball over, if he'll be able to lead the team down the field to actually score touchdowns, not field goals, then they'll actually stand a chance in this game. But even with that being said, I do think Ohio State is the much better football team and should be able to win and cover the 3.
Caden, I agree. I think Ohio State's better. And 3 is just, it's one of those lines that is so narrow and so short. Like one touchdown, one play could easily, change that line. And as you mentioned, with the fatigued quarterback coming in, iffy on his status, all signs point to an Ohio State cover.
Yep. Next thing we got to talk about, though, is a now top 10 ranked team in Texas A&M.
Yes.
They're traveling to South Carolina to face the Gamecocks, who have been a tough challenge for a lot of teams this year. And A&M is only a 3-point favorite in this one.
And here's the thing. The Gamecocks are at home, which is a tremendous advantage for them, Caden. This A&M team has surprised a lot of people, us included.
Us included, for
sure.
So
I'm going to continue to trust what they've been doing, and I think they can go and cover and get it done on the road.
So, yeah, I agree with you. Because, we've seen with South Carolina, they had the great game, the close game against Alabama, where they were a 2-point conversion away from sending it to overtime. But then you look just a week before that, where they were at home against Ole Miss. Everyone thought South Carolina could come up with the big upset, and they got absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
So it really depends what South Carolina team we see. How does Lawrence Sellers play against this Texas A&M defense, which is dominated this? We saw what they did against Missouri.
Yeah.
We saw last week how they made Garrett Nussmeier throw 3 picks. I feel like this Texas A&M D is definitely one of the top defenses in the entire SEC. And so South Carolina's got to find a way to exploit that defense and put up points if they want to keep it close. But what we've seen, especially with Texas A&M's running game, to being able to just run the rock, pound the ball the entire game, and gain big play after big play, I really like A&M in this matchup.
Like you said, Caden, the ability to run the football and pound the rock. This Texas A&M team gets better, more physically dominant as the fourth quarter comes. I think if Texas A&M gets a solid victory, it's going to be a big statement to them and continue to show that they are a force to be reckoned with within the SEC and college football as a whole.
For sure. Next game, we got the big ACC matchup here.
Yes.
You got number 10 ranked Clemson, who's at home against Louisville, where Clemson is a 10-point favorite.
Yes, Caden, this game on paper, Clemson should be able to take care of business and they should handle Louisville. However, I do think, considering the grit of this Louisville team, they faced some adversity this season, Caden, but I do think that they can keep it within that 10 points and get a cover.
See, I'm a little bit on the opposite here because after that first game against Georgia where Clemson looked awful and got throttled, their offense has been amazing.
They start looking.
Cade Klubnik is finally looking like that quarterback we've been expecting him to see and progress into. And they've been able to put up points basically at will. They're putting up 30-plus a game. They've had a couple 50-point games already. And, Louisville's good offensively.
Yes.
But we've seen that their defense has its issues. They gave up a lot of points to SMU earlier in the season, and just last week, again, or 2 weeks ago, against Miami, they gave up 52 points.
Yes.
It'll come, depending on how, we need Louisville's defense to show up for you to get that cover. The reason I'm riding with Clemson is because we've seen that Louisville defense get exploited so much this year with high numbers that I feel like it's going to be hard for their offense to be able to keep up with Clemson's.
Caden, that's a good point you bring up. However, I just feel like I don't think Clemson's going to be able to take advantage of the same mistakes that we saw a team like Miami make, and I think part of that reason is the quarterback play, and I just don't think, at least in my opinion, that Clemson's going to be able to be as dominant and enough early. I think Louisville will be able to hang around kind of early, and that'll build their confidence. Unless Clemson comes out and puts up points quick and early and kind of shuts down that momentum. But that very well could happen, Caden, and we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, it should be a really good matchup inside the surprisingly good ACC this year.
Been competitive.
And now, speaking of ACC, we have the undefeated Pitt Panthers going to SMU, where SMU is a 7.5-point favorite.
Caden, 7.5 points is a lot of points in this matchup. This Pitt team is furious. Yeah. They're gritty. And they've really made a name for themselves this season, Caden, and shocked a lot of people while still being undefeated. And I think a lot of people kind of brush over the fact just because they may not have played, big name opponents, Caden.
You look at this Pitt team. Even I wasn't too high on them. Just last week when they played Syracuse on Thursday Night Football, I took Syracuse with the points. I took them at the +5. I thought they'd be able to keep it close the entire game. And what they do, their defense plays lights out. Kyle McCord throws 5 picks, including 3 pick sixes in the first half. Pitt's defense made it made it impossible for Syracuse to even make a comeback. They went 41-13 in that game. I think this game, as we both have been, we've been really high on SMU this entire year. I have their their over on wins this year, and they're looking great. Last week scares me a little bit with SMU, though. You're playing against Duke, who's not a bad team either. They're actually surprisingly pretty good. They're a 6-2 program right now, which is really good and kind of surprising, especially losing Riley Leonard to Notre Dame. But then, you had to go to overtime against them, and you only win because of a failed 2-point conversion because Duke wanted to win it in the first overtime instead of trying to push it to a second overtime. You win by 1 point when you were a double-digit point favorite. I think I'm surprised this line is this big. I thought
I am too, kid.
Maybe it would be like a 5, 5.5. But if you get it over a touchdown at the center, I think that's just a little too high. And I think Pitt should be able to cover this one.
I agree with you, kid.
Now, though, moving on to NFL. Because, not the greatest college slate this week. So
Texas and Colorado are both on buys.
Yeah, exactly. Texas and Colorado are both on buys again.
On the same
week. So, we only have 4 college games. Now, moving into our NFL slate, though. In the morning, for once, we got your Denver Broncos.
Yes.
We're going into Baltimore where the Ravens are an 8-point favorite.
Caden, this game is going to be tough for Denver. They've always struggled historically playing in Baltimore, and that's going to be an advantage for the Ravens, who are coming off an ugly loss, Caden.
That is very true.
And I think the Ravens are going to be playing pretty pissed off and going to be playing motivated. Going up against a rookie quarterback, that defense is going to have an opportunity to get after Bo Nix. I'm been very on the fence for this, but I do think the Denver Broncos will be able to cover, Caden, and I'm going to go with them to cover.
This game is going to come down to how Bo Nix will be able to react to this Ravens defense.
Yes.
Which is obviously not up to the caliber as it had been these last couple years.
No.
Losing Mike McDonald is huge for them. Like, their defense looked a lot worse. They've been able to be exploited. We saw what Jameis Winston did to them last week.
But it's still a veteran.
It's still a veteran savvy defense where you have the player. You still have Kyle Van Noy, Kyle Hamilton. I mean, you got playmakers, Marlon Humphrey, Patrick Queen. Like, you got the playmakers. It'll decide on like how Bo Nix will be able to react to the pressure. We've seen him against these weaker defenses really perform.
He has.
And when he goes against the more tougher, topper defenses, we've seen him struggle pretty mightily. So I think the Ravens, especially on the backs of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in that backfield, should be able to get the win and the cover in this one.
We disagree there, Caden, but we're going to have to wait and find out. Don't be surprised if Big Bo pull off an upset with a Ravens team that's a little inconsistent.
Ooh. Hey, now though, an AFC bottom dweller matchup. My New England Patriots are going to face the Tennessee Titans, where the Titans are a 3.5-point favorite.
Caden, I wouldn't wish anyone on earth to have to watch this football game, Caden.
And I will be watching this football game.
And the fact that the Titans are favored in a football game is actually crazy to me as well, Caden. That being said, I'm going to ride with New England just because New England is weird. And the Titans are also a weird team, but I think the Titans are going to do something more to screw up. And I think they're going to, fumble. Something weird's going to happen in this game. And, the Patriots are going to stumble upon either a cover or a win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on this one because, you saw last week in that Lions-Titans game. The Titans outgained them offensively by 150 yards. And they lost 52-14. Like, they just find ways to lose games.
They do.
And, I could see, maybe this line is up this side because it's unclear if Drake May's playing.
Yeah.
Even if Jacoby Brissett's at quarterback, you're not going to be able to throw the ball much, which is evident with Jacoby at quarterback. You should be able to run the ball a little bit better against this Titans defense.
Yes.
You just got gouged by the Lions last week. Definitely have the better running game. But, the Patriots have been able to run the ball this year. Not as of late, but at the start of the season especially. If Drake plays, this really bumps up my Patriots stock for me. I think with May at quarterback, they'll be able to move the ball a lot more fluidly on offense, put up more points. It's going to really come down to, I think, the defense being able to, because they're a bad offense. All you have to do is stop Calvin Ridley, and you're going to be fine. Tony Pollard's not that good anymore. He might be able to get 60 rushing yards or something, but he's not going to, I don't think, do anything too crazy. And Mason Rudolph is obviously not a good quarterback. Yeah. They're throwing him in there because Will Levis is also a bad quarterback. So, the Titans are a really bad football team. The Patriots are not a good football team either. It's going to be a bad football game.
It is.
But I'm with you. I think the Patriots should be able to find a way to a cover or maybe even a win in this one.
Yes, sir.
Next game, though, is a really good matchup we have in the afternoon slate. It's a little NFC North divisional matchup where the Lions are traveling to Green Bay, where the Lions are a 2.5-point favorite.
Yes, Caden, this is such a close line. Regardless of the, kind of up and down season that the Packers have had, this is still a divisional game, and Matt LaFleur is a great coach.
That's very true.
And this is going to come down to, in my opinion, which coach is willing to put it on the table more. And I think Dan Campbell, that is going to favor the Lions because I think there's going to be some 4th and 1s. There's going to be some close scenarios where a decision is going to be needed to made, whether they punt or go for it. And I think the Lions, being that more aggressive team, is going to prove to be the cause of victory for them, and I like them to cover that 2.5 points.
I agree with you, and there's another concern for the Packers is the health of Jordan Love.
Yeah.
We saw him exit that game against the Jaguars last week with the groin strain. We know we've seen him progressing throughout the week. He's been limited in practice. He's been practicing.
But those nag, Caden.
Those nag, and it's gonna be nagging him throughout the game. It's gonna probably affect his mobility in the pocket, trying to scramble outside, make big plays. So if you can get the pass rush you need with the Lions D-line, even without Aiden Hutchinson, you'll be able to stop a lot of their pass game, and then all you really need to do is bottle Josh Jacobs, who's been surprisingly really good with them. He's been really good with them this year. But yeah, I do agree. I think Dan Campbell is going to be able to make those gutsy calls when needed, get a couple extra first downs that could help sway the game. Lions will get the win and the cover.
Yes, sir.
Now, going into our primetime matchup.
Sunday Night Football.
We got the Colts at the Vikings, where the Vikings are a 5-point favorite.
Caden, how the Vikings are only a 5-point favorite is beyond me. With the disaster the Colts have been, Joe Flacco now named the starting quarterback coming into. I know it's better than
it's a lot
Anthony
better.
Richardson, But that being said, I think that this should be a tune-up game for the Vikings, and they should blow past the Colts no problem.
See, I'm not so sure about that.
You're not so sure about that. You think the Colts are going to rally behind having Joe Flacco as their QB now?
You've seen the games Joe Flacco started. They've been able to actually put up points offensively. And, hold on, here's another thing, though. The Colts are the best team in the NFL against the spread this year. They only have lost one game against the spread
you said that
all season.
Just because you said that, you jinxed them. I hope you know
I
that.
jinxed them?
You just jinxed them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No. Joe Flacco, elite Joe Flacco. I'm not saying they're going to win the game by
They're
any
not
means.
covering the game.
They're going to cover the game.
No.
I'm pretty.
This will be my lock of the week that the Vikings beat the Colts. How about that?
You mean cover? Against the Colts, not just beat?
Yeah, they cover. This is
That's
my
your lock of the
that they
week?
cover.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
All right. There it is.
Yeah, I think with Joe Flacco quarterback, you're going to be able to expand the offense more. You finally have Jonathan Taylor back. He's going to help in the running game. And I mean, yeah, you with Flacco quarterback, you're able to actually pass the ball. You don't have the most inaccurate passer in the entire league at quarterback.
I'm willing to bet Flacco throws 2 interceptions as well.
2 interceptions?
Yeah.
How much?
We'll make a wager off camera. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, I think Flacco's going to be able to come in. I'm not saying win the game. I don't think they're going to win the game. The Vikings are a better team. But I think they should be able to keep it within a field goal. I think it should be about a field goal game. Like a 24-21, 21-18 type of football game where the Vikings do end up getting the win. Definitely helps them being at home in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But I think not the Vikings. The Colts are going to be able to actually put up points offensively and keep it close.
It's going to be exciting. We're going to be watching that one very closely now, Cade. But to close off our week, the Monday Night Football matchup.
Monday night should also be a very good football game. We got the Buccaneers traveling to Kansas City, where the Chiefs are an 8.5-point favorite.
The Chiefs are an 8.5-point favorite because we know how beat up and banged up this Buccaneers team is. Yep. That being said, Baker Mayfield's never going to back down.
He still slings the rock.
He's going to sling that rock. Tampa Bay's going to come in aggressive. I just don't think it'll be enough against this tough Kansas City team, Caden. At home, with the refs on their side.
Always have the refs on their side.
I think that they'll be able to, have a touchdown and a field goal more than the Buccaneers. I think that, the Chiefs will probably get out to a decent lead early, and Baker will try to throw the Buccaneers back into the game, but I just don't see it big enough, kid.
I think behind the backs of my glorious king, Cade Otton, and my other glorious king, Bucky Irving, but even with, their 2 key really bad injuries, Baker last week against the Falcons was still able to throw for about 330, 3 touchdowns.
He's going to be all right.
He's going to be able to swing the rock. I think 8.5, because, yes, the Chiefs are undefeated. They haven't lost a game. Everything's been close, though.
Yeah.
They only
garbage.
Mahomes been garbage. They only beat the Raiders by a touchdown last week. The lowly Raiders. The Bucs are a much better team. Yes, it's a big primetime matchup. Obviously, they're going to have the refs even more on their side in the primetime.
I'm wrong about it, kid.
In the primetime matchup. I think 8.5. I think if it was 7.5, I'd lean more towards your Chiefs. But with the 8.5, that means
not my Chiefs. Don't ever say that again. Don't ever say that again.
But I think with the 8.5, that means they have to win by 2 scores. I think the Bucs should be able to keep this within a 1-score game throughout and get the cover.
Well, we're gonna have to wait and find out. Caden, before all these people leave, what should they do?
Yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, share the podcast wherever you like to listen to it. Turn on post notifications. Make sure to follow all the social medias.
Yes,
because we got a double episode for you guys today. We got this one, and then the MLB one will be coming out a little 100%. Later. And then we got starting going in next week. More NFL, more NBA. Just keep going for you guys.
Most definitely. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you all next time.